Hello, I'm Jennifer Brown Lerner, and we are here from Project Play, an initiative to build healthy communities through sport at the Aspen Institute, to talk about our partnership with Jumpstart, to gather information from young people across Canada about the current state of play.
Hi, I'm Sabrina McDonald. To kick things off, we will begin reviewing the methodology of the survey as well as the sample. We asked targeted questions to gather information from youth in 3 domains: sport participation and preferences, rationale for participation in sport, and frequency of youth-centered behaviors by adults in the context of sport. We will dive deeper into these findings as we go on. Throughout our survey distribution efforts, we engaged with sport providers, schools, and city agencies across Canada. And we managed to have 2,753 kids, grades 3 through 12, take the survey from May to December 2022. We were able to gather responses from 109 organizations across 4 regions. 94% of youth surveyed live in central and prairie regions to reach the total of 2,753 responses. In Figure 1, you can see the respondent breakdown by gender. 42% identified as female, while 54% identified as male. Slightly less than 2% identified as non-binary. The majority of respondents identified as white at 44%, followed by 12% Black, 9% mixed race, 9% South Asian, 7% East Asian, and the others fell below 5%. Youth were allowed to make multiple selections. Here we see the breakdown of race by gender. Overall, we see 9.4% of the sample answering yes to using adaptive equipment to play sports. When we break this down, we see overrepresentation of physical disability in Indigenous and Arab youth and 12th graders. Our sample includes 49% elementary, grades 3 through 6, 20% middle school, grades 7 and 8, and 31% high school, grades 9 through 12. Now we will be diving deeper into our key findings. First off, youth sports have recovered from the pandemic. 65% of the sample reported that their participation in sports is either the same or more than it was before the pandemic. Youth involved with sports club organizations reported playing sports more than they did before COVID-19, at a higher rate than youth involved in other organizations like after-school programs, schools, and rec centers. Disaggregated by race and gender, a higher percentage of boys and girls of color reported playing less than before COVID than white girls and boys.
Schools and families are critical facilitators of young people's ability to participate in sport, according to the data collected. Regardless of the type of organization that the youth respondent was affiliated with, almost 70% reported playing on a school team, and 64% with a local club or association. Overwhelmingly, youth were driven by a family member to participate in sports activity. It's important to note that they could select multiple options. We do see differences when we look at the results of transportation based upon the type of organization a youth is affiliated with. For example, sport clubs have 80% of respondents indicating they're driven by a family member, much higher than the overall average. Interestingly, 20% of after-school program respondents indicated they use public transit, higher than the 10% overall average. When we look at how young people travel to sport activities by race and ethnicity, while the top 2 reasons are the same, driven by a family member and walking, the differences among youth groups is significant. whites being the highest, driven by a family member at 87%, while blacks being the lowest at 57%. We can make some assumptions that the ability to rely on a family member for transportation is an aspect of participation that needs to be addressed.
Youth interest in sports is very diverse. Youth selected soccer, swimming, basketball, biking, and hockey most frequently as sports they played in the past 3 years. Yet Black youth have the lowest proportions of respondents who swam and biked. The top 5 sports youth want to try are martial arts, hockey, climbing, soccer, and basketball. When you see a sport on both lists, this indicates the need for more opportunities, like hockey, basketball, and soccer in this case. 18% of survey respondents wrote in field hockey, followed by rugby, cricket, artistic and synchronized swimming, and pickleball. Here's the overall list of sports youth want to try. Youth with disabilities want to try equestrian, hockey, basketball, soccer, and martial arts. On average, 3 of the top sports are the same, yet they also want to try equestrian.
Not unlike responses we see in American communities, youth motivation for participation in sport is to have fun and be with friends. You can see on this slide, overall, when asked to choose up to 3 reasons for participation, the responses are 55% playing with friends, 38% having fun, and 33% exercising to stay healthy. While no one is going to deny that winning feels good, it is clearly not the primary motivator for while young people participate in sport and physical activity. I do want to point out some interesting differences by gender. The gap between male and female responses on playing with friends is 5% higher for males, and the gap between challenging myself is 5.7% higher for females. For youth with disabilities, we wanted to flag that the top 2 reasons were the same as the overall sample, but the third reason for making friends emphasizes the social nature of sport opportunities, especially for these young people. When we look at differences for boys and girls of color, we do not find differences in the top 3 reasons, but when we look beyond, we see some differences worth noting. Girls of color rank highly, learning a new skill, as well as making my family proud. And boys of color also rank making my family proud high, but indicated identifying a coach or a teacher who looks like me or cares about me as also important. Cost still remains a barrier for youth sport participation. When asked why respondents don't play sport as often as they would like, cost is the number 1 reason, followed by too much schoolwork and I'm not good enough to play. While Jumpstart is doing a lot to remove financial barriers, it is clear there is an opportunity to do more. This chart looks at the same reasons for not playing sport as often by grade. And while schoolwork is clearly more of an issue for older youth, cost remains a barrier for all. It is important to note that our youngest respondents indicated they do not have enough information about sport opportunities. This feels like an easy fix to provide more information to younger youth and their families. In the survey, we asked the organizations who were distributing to youth to provide some information about the cost of their programming, including what they are charging for registration fees and the estimated cost of participation for a family, including the initial registration fees, plus travel, uniform, and all other sport associated expenses. Here you can see the most expensive sport by registration on the left and participation cost on the right. Only climbing is on both lists, which we know to be an equipment-heavy sport. The final section of the survey asks youth to rate the frequency of behaviors by coaches associated with creating a youth-centered sports experience, one which is both physically developmentally appropriate and focused on the social, emotional, or holistic development of a young person. On average, youth reported with high frequency that coaches were displaying these behaviors, making them feel good when they learned or improved a skill, recognizing the contributions of all team members, and focusing on trying, not the overall win-loss record. When we asked youth to share if they had coaches who looked like them, here's where we see and found some differences. Males reported 21% of the time, almost always, whereas 20% of the time, females reported almost never. By race ethnicity, we saw Arab, Black, and whites with higher percentage of coaches who almost always or frequently looked like the participants they coached, as compared to the other groups. When we look at this by girls and boys of color, then we can begin to see some differences, especially for girls of color. To learn more about this data and read the entire data book, please visit projectplay.org/international or contact us at the email addresses on this slide.